This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome to the June meeting of the Easthampton Council on Aging. Call the meeting to order at approximately 12:03. And what I'd like to do is just call the roll. Actually, see who's here. Pat here. Pat's here. Chuck.
I'm here.
Tom here. Am I remiss in not asking for your last names?
No.
Okay.
Unless there were two of us.
Okay, Eileen?
Here.
All right. Cat. And Stan?
Here.
Yep. I know that. Crystal?
Here.
Crystal is here. Joe? Yep, I'm here. And then Louise? Not here. Okay, let's, item 2, acceptance of minutes from April and May meetings.
Did anyone not get the minutes from May that I sent out? Any suggestions?
I didn't get them, but I would abstain anyways because I wasn't here. So.
Okay. Okay, do you want to start?
What do you want?
I did
me
get
to?
Did anybody?
Make a motion to accept the meeting
Oh.
minutes from April and May.
Second.
Well, wait a minute. I didn't get April from.
That's a
Louise.
subject of discussion.
Okay, so you just,
So for May, just.
yeah, so for May, I rooted those around this,
Mhm.
and I hear no suggestions, edits.
That there were errors or anything. So Pat, you move to accept the May minutes.
Yes.
Okay, Kathy seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? No one? Okay, good.
Abstentions.
I abstained.
Oh, you're in,
I wasn't here.
Chuck's abstaining, okay. All right, in terms of the April minutes, that was discussed at the last meeting where I had asked Louise. She indicated that she had been having some issues with her internet service provider and her computer, and they were conspiring against her. I asked her if she wanted to have somebody else do them, and she said no, that she would get them done. And I haven't heard from her since then, so.
I don't recall, Joe, she hadn't even provided a draft of them, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was when she went back and talked about the problems with Spectrum Charter, whatever, okay. Yes, Cindy.
Could you ask for a volunteer to work with me and watch the meeting? I don't advise trying to read the transcript, but the sentences are all broken up, but together we could put that together and make sure we get it done. If
Sure.
somebody wanted to help, I could help them.
I'll help out that.
Okay,
Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy's willing to help, okay. So let me just make a note here.
And Eileen, if I'm not out of order, you do know that you pass those on to the city clerk after they've been approved.
Yeah,
Okay. There's an email agenda set, whatever.
yeah, I'll have to figure that.
At easthamptonma.gov.
Yeah.
So you're gonna.
When we
Yes.
get to the officer elections, then we can say what the next step is for guidance on how to do your role.
Mhm. Okay, Good deal. All right, that takes care of item 2. Item 3, public speak. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? Sandy?
Yeah, I do. I just have a question. A lot of the time I have a question after the new information or after everything is confirmed. I don't have anything right now.
Okay.
But am I able to speak after or no? Why is it always at the beginning before I know what's going to be going on with the meeting?
Well, because usually when people come to public speak, there's something that's been on their minds for a while. And it's not be something that is the subject of the meeting.
So I would have to wait till the next meeting?
If you still felt passionate about, what you wanted to say, yes.
You can send an email at any time if you have questions or thoughts or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Public speak is one way to do it, but that's not the only way. Right? If you wanted to communicate with any of us or, or maybe all of us.
Not necessarily all of us that we would report.
It would be better to just send one message to
All right.
either me, myself, or Eileen as the,
But other than that, it's at the beginning.
yeah.
I mean, that's something that's
But-
always.
Yeah, but I mean, the chair has, the flexibility if during one of the items that's on our agenda to get input or
Yeah.
ask you.
But
for whatever.
normally, if we're gonna be true to public speak, then the issue that you raise cannot be something that's on the agenda
Correct.
of the meeting.
All right, all
Okay,
right, all right.
so it's not something, it's not like you're becoming a regular participant in
No,
the meeting, but it's a question, then I would say,
Comment, not even,
and if it concerns something that we've been talking about,
Okay.
then I would say your best course would be to send me the email.
oh, all right.
Okay, and then either I'll answer it or farm it out to somebody else to develop a response. But, the point is we're trying to give people an opportunity to comment where they otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to do that.
Show you the question.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah,
And it's kind
Go
of
ahead.
kind of a two-way street so there could be an item on the agenda that you might have a question about, and the reason the chair would ask not to have you comment on that yet is in the course of our discussion, we may answer that question. And so whether or not the chair is going to allow other comments during the course of that discussion, to Pat's point, is up to the discretion of the chair.
Oh,
So the city council, for example, will run their meeting very strictly.
mhm.
You're not going to talk when they're talking about an item. The school building committee, we were very flexible. If we had business in the room and they raised their hand, they had a question, we let them speak. So it's all up to
All right,
the way the meeting, the flip side of that is you could bring up an issue that's not on our agenda during public speak, and we can't talk to you about it because it's not on the agenda. So let's just say you brought up an issue that, I don't like the director and I've got a problem with the director and I want to talk about it. We're going to be silent because a discussion about the director wasn't on the agenda where other people may want to come and say, we love Cindy, we think it's great. So we can't talk about an item that's not on the
oh,
agenda.
no, I wouldn't
That's
do that.
brought
It
up.
would be something that probably all of a sudden crossed my mind and I'm
Right.
wondering. But
well,
I'll-
see, that's, the other point is public speak is for you to speak to us. Technically, it isn't a dialogue.
Right.
Okay, if you're looking for a dialogue, then I'd say send an email to me or
All right.
somebody else,
All
but
right.
And generally, public speak is for items not specifically on the agenda, as Tom, just to kind of clarify that. Like, if you decided today to come and say, I noticed that the flowers are dead on the left side of the building and no one has addressed that issue today.
Oh,
Not on our agenda. It's something that we would take the information in. Again, we don't necessarily have to respond to that
Right.
piece,
all right.
but we could go back. But if during today's meeting in the director's report, the director brought up, the plants all look great. And you would say, at the discretion, maybe raise your hand and say, have you checked the left side of the building where the plants are
I
all dead?
understand.
Just as an example of how that could work.
And Cindy, I think I had a little bit of criticism in my time as chair about the agenda in that the item called director's report was too vague. So no one knows what's gonna come up under the director's report. There's something that if I knew on the director's report, it said A, B, C, D, I might want to show up at the meeting and talk about it.
Yeah. And
So-
actually, we just,
Barbara's mentioned that to me before, but I kind of just ignored it. And
Yeah.
So if you had 4 things on the director's report, technically, she'd prefer to see those 4 things itemized.
Which you did do last month. Yeah, last month we had that.
Because there could be public that wants to come and speak to that.
So, we're not allowed to talk to you. We hope that answers your question.
I mean, all this has been sort of ad hoc.
All right.
And we haven't even touched on Barron versus Kalenda yet.
I don't know. Whatever that is.
Okay, good. All right, so public speak. And I assume you're probably gonna send an email then?
Won't know until after the meeting.
I'm not sure anything's gonna happen.
Depends on what, okay, good enough. All right, item 4, Highland Valley report.
We're in the thick of our Title III, grant process right now. So I'm on that committee. So I'm listening and hearing all the things going on. That's kind of the gist of where we're at.
Okay, that Title III is one of the state-provided funding sources.
Yes, it's the big one that they get and that they dole out, that Highland Valley doles out to everyone. So there are, I don't know, I'm leaving here and going to another Zoom at 2:00. So I have one every week for the next couple of weeks. All right, I can do every week.
Good.
Yes.
Cindy?
we were asked to support the application of Treehouse.
Okay,
And I was away and
Okay.
didn't get to attend the Highland Valley meeting where they made their presentation.
okay,
And I haven't read their grant,
okay.
but we were asked.
I will let them know. So that's not one that's on my, there's a giant list and I have like, I think 8 of them. That wasn't the one that was on my list, so, but I'll let them know.
Okay.
Good.
That's it?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Item 5, director's report and form update. Cindy, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm gonna go back. I just want to go back to the minutes. Thank you, Eileen, for the draft minutes, just to make sure that, there are any loose ends there that we wanna tie up first. So I can give you a transportation update. I can give you a fitness center update. I'm also gonna give you an update around, what's happening since we moved the pool table downstairs and moved exercise classes upstairs. So I don't think we've really talked about that. And then, and there's a complaint related to that. And, okay. And then the last piece is the, formula grant funding, which comes from the state. So take them one at a time. So transportation, I had reported that we were getting a new van, which we got the new van. It is as yet unmarked. It's still just a white van with a municipal plate because we haven't been able to get a sign contractor to pay attention to us to take that to the plate, so to speak. If anybody has a recommendation for a sign contractor, I'm looking to get more quotes.
Do you know who you guys used in the past or who you've reached out to so far?
Keith Brick Designs, and that's who the city uses. And
Okay.
then I think someplace called Valley Signs out of Chicopee, but they didn't come and do a quote.
Okay.
Answers to that?
Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore, but, you know, off the top of my head, Bobby Hankey and, Hankey Digital and, what's his name?
O'Neill there.
Oh, yeah.
Greg Malino, not Malino, it's Greg, what the heck is the name?
Would you email me
Yeah,
afterward
I will.
or text me either way? And
I
thank
will.
you.
Yeah.
So we had thought, so now we have, that van can take between 5 to 6 humans, a little one less if you have a wheelchair in it, fewer than what we had planned, because when we received it, the seats were so tiny, we sent it back at no cost to us to have fewer seats
Okay.
across the back. There are now 3. because I couldn't even sit, 3 in a row. So we have that new van and then the 2 older vans, which were due, one to be replaced now, one to be replaced hopefully a year from now. Those processes from the state are greatly delayed. So we need to run those old vans that technically are past their useful life, according to PBTA. We need to keep running those. So then, I have started to, doing the repairs that they needed and so on.
Mhm.
We're gonna put in a new system in place for making sure that the transportation fleet gets the maintenance attention that it needs. I wanted to bring this to your attention. So we don't have a full-time driver / transportation coordinator the way that we used to. And for a little while, we had a part-time driver who was keeping his eyes on the prize of, being able to say to DPW, okay, now it's time for an oil change. Now it's time for this. Now it's time to that. I heard from a number of directors at the statewide meeting that it's tough to keep track of their transportation fleet needs. The DPW said to me, as long as you bring it in for regular oil changes, we'll be able to keep track of all its service needs. But what I learned from Mass Department of Transportation is it's not just mileage, it's the hours you drive these things, because they get such hard use that before the typical miles of 3,000, it might need servicing. So the clerk and I are going to work up a system using a Department of Transportation spreadsheet about what are all the data points on keeping track of these vehicles. Because we had brought a van in and it definitely needed, brake work. So that was a wake up call, that we really, so, just to bring to the board's attention, that's definitely has to be a role of mine, is basically being the de facto transportation coordinator and fleet manager. So in terms of running these vehicles longer than we had planned, we could expect more repair costs or more than we had thought for where we would be in right now, but we do have funds in that transportation account. The Helping Hand Society gives us a few $1,000s each year, which is also helpful for that. So I think we're okay right now. We just gotta hope that the state does put those procurement processes and grant award processes in place so that we can move the needle on getting new vehicles. Okay. So the next piece, the fitness gym. So the fitness gym, there have been some issues because one of our treadmills went out right after the warranty expired. And instead of rushing out or just going out and replacing it, I did some research and I was hoping that we could get into a relationship with another organization so that we who are too small for a lease could get a lease through another organization so that when,
Piggyback on someone else.
so when equipment breaks, we don't have to outlay $4,000 or $5,000 at a time and maybe even get something that isn't going to work out.
Right.
But unfortunately, that didn't come through in a timely way, and it's really time to, the members have been waiting for 6 months. So I am spending almost $5,000. So that we have 2 at all times and people can walk together. In the meantime, some people may have been upset about that, but I want you to know that I felt that it was my duty to pause and just try to figure out how do I get us out of this situation in which it costs so much money every time we need equipment.
Right.
But so we'll go along and then also just to call your attention to the fact that we only have 25% of the members that we did apparently at our height. So that's only 25% of the income. And that the bucket that pays for the fitness equipment replacements is very small. It's very small right now. And also we could choose to use other funds, but I'm not choosing to because there are so many other priorities. But we can always look at that again. So that's the fitness room, the space use. So I don't know how much you're aware, but exercise classes used to be done downstairs. So there was a noise. There The upstairs was noisy in a different way. There was a pool table, all of the staff working, reception and dispatch, and people coming in and out, and a different kind of activity happening in that main room.
Right.
Not to say that it was quiet. However, we moved the exercise classes upstairs because that is the one thing driving, there's many things driving people to the senior center, but that consistently drives people to the senior center. And being able to have more than 6 people in a class, being able to have 12, 14, as we sometimes do for, say, something like Tai Chi, is wonderful. So we moved the pool table downstairs, as you probably, some of you recall. They're so happy that they have a dedicated billiards room. Please go see it. They decorated it. They did a lot with a very tiny budget that I gave them. It's wonderful. However, the trade-off is that for the first time, we have people with hearing issues trying to hear an instructor teaching them yoga, Tai Chi, osteoporosis prevention exercises. And there's so much ambient noise. It's hard for people to hear. So after months of hearing the issues with this, we came up, actually our program manager came up with the thought, why don't we just wheel out a big sign on a whiteboard that says, quiet, please, class in session. It's only for an hour at a time. And then we put it away. And we also draw a great big divider that unfurls as a visual barrier for those folks. Doesn't block noise. So we had a complaint recently that when this person walks into the room and sees that sign, they're very unhappy with it and have vocalized that it makes it seem like it's either a prison or a nursing home. And that for 10 years they've been coming here and it really hasn't been an issue. Why is it suddenly an issue? I wasn't aware that we barely ever had exercise classes upstairs. That's what the issue is. That's the difference. I bring this to you because I want to light a fire under all of your seats that it's just not sustainable to offer so much activity in a room where it's so hard for people to hear and attend, but at the same time, we may be there for a while. So what am I doing? Yes?
No, clarifying question. When, is it the exercise people who are making the different kind of noise?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what the sign,
Or is
who the
it,
sign was
The
for.
sign is for when you come in, I'm interrupting you, Pat.
No, you're good.
So when you come in and check in, you want to have a chat.
Yep.
And or the staff are
Okay.
chatting with each other in the course of their work.
Okay.
Right.
And so someone is coming out and saying, shh, if you're not attending to the sign, because the group that's right behind the barrier suddenly can't hear. And now, I want you to release your back.
Oh, during
When
yoga.
it's all this
So it's not
ping-ponging
necessarily,
conversation.
like, I just envisioned like the exercise, like there was some chatting and like it was, but this is more of like the yoga
To
session
help
or
yeah.
the quiet
who
session.
need the meditation
Got it.
part of it?
and the instructors are having trouble just delivering their message. So,
Okay.
so before we take any more questions, so let me just say, well, what am I doing about this? So what I'm doing is I've reached out to get quotes on assistive technology that could help in this situation where the instructor can wear a microphone, the participants can wear receivers so that sound can be directed their way. It won't be perfect because there's
but
still
it'll
so
work.
much ambient noise.
Yeah.
And also it might not jive with whatever hearing aids the person has.
Right.
If they're wearing their hearing aids.
Right.
That's one. And then the other is that, we have some old equipment. And so whoever takes on this contract is going to try to work with the old equipment too, so that we can, enhance, so we can stretch it and make it go further, because we don't actually have, it would cost tens of thousands of dollars to really set up assistive listening throughout the place. And according to some of the quotes I've had, it wouldn't even necessarily work that well because of the room setup. It's an extremely challenging room.
Right.
So
I think it's great that you're looking at ways to solve this, but I'm just not so sure react to that extent if you had one complaint. My rule of thumb used to be, okay, when it gets to 10, I'll listen, but one complaint, I'm not so sure that I would overreact and say, we need to do something to fix this. Unless it was the mayor complaining, I suppose, but, it shouldn't, I mean, it makes for an hour a day, you've got a sign up that says quiet, please.
Right.
Seems pretty reasonable.
She used the example of prison or nursing home. Chuck said library. So there's the positive turn on it.
Right.
Make believe you're in a library for an hour.
Right.
You know,
Right, and also that person has another room that they're headed to, which is the fitness room, which has a closing door, has the most soundproofing of any room in the
Right,
place. It does cut into the really nice connections that we're
Yeah.
trying to make when people walk in the door,
Right.
and that's unfortunate, but also I offered the person could come at another time.
Yeah.
But they don't wanna come at another time.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes you get one person that's louder
Gonna
than
complain about
others.
anything.
Yeah, I heard the complaint directly too.
Weren't you,
Yeah,
I heard the same complaint came. to me.
okay,
Probably, I'm guessing maybe the same person.
okay.
in the fitness room where you had the treadmills and all that, wasn't there someone who was very loud in there? Or is that?
That
a
was
different-
another
different
issue. That was
Okay.
during the meeting.
All right.
That was another issue. But in answer to your question, why jump onto getting assistive listening devices just for one complaint? That's something we were already working on because as a site that should be ADA compliant, that is one of the things that the planning department identified that we could work on. And they tried to get a grant for city buildings and they didn't get it for $250,000 to do that in multiple places. And the company that gave them the quote on that, I'm speaking to anyway, because we need a TV and we need some hybrid capability at some point, but even just to be able to show a video, show movies, show presentations, carousel of slides about what's happening at the senior center. That's the majority of what I'm trying to do with the quote. And this was like an add-on, a smaller piece.
Yeah.
What could you do for assistive listening, in a very affordable and small way? Because we could set up this TV and then people wouldn't be able to hear.
Right.
So we were troubleshooting around that and we thought, well, while we're at it, maybe we could set that up for classes.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you remember, the old council meeting room in the basement is extremely echoey. We try to offer classes and counseling and support groups down there. It's not working out so well sound wise. So we're putting that in as a possibility that we could do something down there. I'm not sure what. So I'm trying to keep the total bill for this project to $10,000 or $15,000 total. And that would come out of the state formula grant. And then I've also reached out to the Friends of the Council on Aging. I'm meeting with them in July. Because they asked me, how could we help the senior center? So this is one way they could help. They could contribute towards that. And there's other groups that have asked us, how could we help? So this would be a perfect project to have multiple.
In general, you're working in a building that's not acoustically set up and not designed for what you're trying to do. So that's just
Like too many hard surfaces.
hard surfaces versus
Yeah, high
acoustical tiles,
ceilings,
carpet, you know, different things.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It was built as a bunker kind of, you know.
Yeah.
so, you know.
Stan first, because he's been patient.
The echoey room is fairly easy to adapt with, sound deadening panels that are glued up on the wall. And you could probably get some help from Easthampton Media in designing their placement, et cetera. And they may even have some extra panels lying around that they would be willing to donate.
Would be helpful. I was also gonna mention, I don't know who you would talk to, but it may be something you want to talk to somebody from the school department because the new Mountain View School has that type of system that's incorporated into the classrooms. So they may have there may be a city contract of some sort already that deals with that. And again, I'm not sure who you would, maybe somebody in the tech IT department up in there, but the classrooms are all set up with that adaptive listening, like throughout the whole building.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That might be a contact of some sort.
I think that sorry. Did anybody else have questions before I talk? I think this brings up the continual issue that I have here, and then I can conclude, I think, the director's report, which is there are so many priorities that relate to things we could do to the building, as you
Right.
know, the kitchen, the sound issues, paint. People are begging me to spruce up the place. And it's been my thought from working here since October 2021, meeting with you all, talking with people at the center, talking with people in the city, that we should spend as little money as possible on fixing up this building. And so for me, I think I would walk out of this item of this meeting still in that place of,
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much money we should
Right.
spend on
What's enough,
acoustic panels.
or
I'm
what
not
is too
sure how
much,
much money. It might be helpful. We did do the feasibility study of the building, which identified many issues. We did have the ADA study. We had the indoor air quality study. There's the common sense of speaking to each other and answering complaints that come in. It might be helpful for me and the community to have the board work with me on what are the hot issues with the building. I mean, I've done this with DPW and the mayor also, but maybe we need like a priority list. And then we look at those items, and we help me prioritize what to go to the city with as an issue, or maybe something is kind of small. Like in the past, a driver re-urethaned the floors, okay, years and years
Right.
ago. That's all worn off. We can't live that way. We're not gonna expect that a part-time driver is gonna come in on a Saturday and re-urethane the floors.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't even
Mhm.
support that. And actually, we had a volunteer who wanted to fix the dishwasher, and DPW reminded me that could be a hazardous thing that could hurt that person in the course of fixing the dishwasher.
Right.
So the scrappiness
Right.
maybe is a thing of the past. So that makes each thing a really big deal. You know, we're not just gonna slap up a few panels on a wall. We would be trying to do it in a way that would work, right? We know just a few panels isn't gonna work, but we know the cost of many panels and of
Yeah.
installation.
How many, where do you get the most bang for your buck?
There's that, but there's also, it's an endless pit,
Right.
that building.
Right.
Just like many of our homes. So how do we narrow down what we should focus on is kind of a mystery.
Well, I think that the priorities have to be, what do we have to do to stay open? So if the Board of Health
Right.
walked in and said, you got a problem with ABC, and if you can't fix it, we're gonna shut you down, that just moved to the top of the priority list. So a dishwasher probably is way down on the priority list. Not saying it's not important, but it's not as important as keeping the building open. And I think that should be the general overview is, what do we need to do to make sure the building stays open and active and safe and all of that stuff? Just to digress for 1 second, Cindy, you had run through the minutes and things you wanted to address. And I apologize, I didn't bring them with me, but at our last meeting, did we have an action item that was going to be taken regarding the new center, regarding communication with the mayor?
So we said, first step would be to communicate to the mayor the intent to create a formal building committee, then feasibility study, and secure funds to support, also ensure public engagement meetings. So the concept was the mayor to create a building committee sometime over the next, few meetings, the
Mhm.
board would, that I think you had offered to write a letter and then bring it
And-
back to the board to approve.
With the idea of sometime in the fall, either September or early October, having it prepared at that point to get to the mayor. Yep,
Or sooner.
I haven't, sooner.
Oh, no, I mean, I think that you're saying early October, but I think we had also discussed September
Or
as a
September, yeah,
possibility.
okay. Not sooner than September.
Okay, good, but that action step is still out there to be
It's-
taken,
it's-
so that's gonna
it's
start
still-
that ball rolling.
Right, that's still out there.
Good.
So I would conclude the director's report now unless anybody has any other questions. And if you have a request for something to be on the director's report for next time, please let me know, because there is so much to talk about. Yeah. Oh, and
Okay. Go
can I
ahead.
reopen that
Yeah.
real quick?
Go.
Please come in and welcome our new employee. So we have a new office aide who is the morning front desk receptionist. Her name is Moira,
Mhm.
Moira Cranshaw, Cranshaw.
So she's a new office aide.
Yes. She's the new Anne.
Okay, no further comments on director's, report? Okay. Moving on to item 6, new business. We have 3 different pieces under there. Let's start with A, officer elections and board membership. And maybe Tom, or you got, those of you who are old timers, although you're not old by any means.
Long timers.
Long
There you
timers.
go.
My understanding is that it was probably about every year that we'd sort of go through and revisit the officer appointments or I don't know if appointment's the right word, but,
Election.
the officers, yeah, see who wants to shift jobs or do things like
Yeah,
that.
of the 3 primary positions, it was chair, vice chair, and secretary. Those were the 3. It used to be treasurer years ago, but obviously that's changed dramatically. So it's those 3 primary positions. And we did look at them in conjunction with the end of the fiscal year, especially, if you remember last year, there were times when we chose to not meet in July and August. And I believe last year we didn't meet in July and August. So we basically wrapped that, doesn't mean we can't, but we wrapped that up by our June meeting as to making sure we hit the ground running with those positions filled
Back in September, yeah. Okay. So perhaps now might not be a bad time to revisit that. Cindy?
Can you define the roles together, everybody's information of chair, vice chair, and secretary before you hold the election?
When you say define the role, you mean it's like, what are the main duties of each position? I'm glad you asked that.
It's in the bylaws, isn't it?
Yes, we do. We have Article 8 of the bylaws, officers. So if you'd like, let me, since the duties are very short, I will read them. The chair shall prepare an agenda and preside at all meetings of the council. Okay, vice chair, during the absence or disability of the chair, the vice chair shall exercise the functions of the chair. Okay, and then secretary, the secretary notifies members of meetings and records all of the proceedings of the meetings of the council. There we got it.
Could I add to that?
Sure.
Okay, so I would add that the chair does not develop the agenda in isolation. The chair develops the agenda with the director and also listens to the board members. So if the chair was disabled or unable to participate in a certain time period, the vice chair then would need to step up to the plate, meet with me by phone or in person, and develop an agenda, and that, so it would be more than simply running the meeting. And then I wanted to ask, because we have hybrid remote meetings, is there any definition to, because this isn't in our bylaws, do the chair and or vice chair need to be physically present in order to carry out their duties, or is the board comfortable with those positions being filled by people who are only participating remotely? And do we need to relook at the bylaws around that?
What's the date on the bottom of the bylaws, Joe? I forget.
That'd be 3 years ago.
Oh, my goodness. May 21st, 2003.
Yeah, they've been
A couple
updated
years.
since then.
They've been updated since then because that,
Yeah, because I remember working.
the whole section about the regular attendance, I mean, this may be, I just copied the wrong copy.
Yeah, so
So I mean, it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago that we made that last change
Right.
as far as the attendance.
the bylaws never were updated that regularly, so I'm not laughing too hard when you say 2003, because we'd go 10 years without even looking at the bylaws until something came up.
Oh, Cindy writes 2019.
Okay, that sounds about right then,
Yep.
4 years. So, you know, we could revisit that. Cindy, I thought there were some state guidelines for hybrid meetings that may or may not, were just extended in March, I believe, to allow, I believe, I could be wrong, to allow the chair not to have to be present and to allow a quorum not to have to be present. Because the original state guidelines required a quorum to be present.
Physically
It didn't
present.
matter how many people we had on remote. So I don't know where we are with those guidelines coming to an end again. That may say the chair has to be present and your quorum has to be present. That could be coming up. Maybe it's not till next March, I don't know, but that's not going to last forever. And it hasn't been a problem with us because the majority have been present, but some committees, you know, the Economic Development Committee that I'm on, meeting this afternoon, is totally remote, has never gone back to in person, and that's just been more of a convenience factor. So I don't know who could, somebody in the mayor's office, Lindsay, or somebody could tell us when that might be coming to an end.
Yeah, find that out. And I'm not opposed to the chair, whoever, any one of those positions being remote versus in person personally.
If they have to be.
Yeah.
So with that said, I nominate Joe Banis to be chair for another year.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
How
Yeah.
does Joe feel about that?
That's good. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a learning year of
Yeah.
realizing go and
Right.
just can't deal with anything. And there are certain things that might cause you to go nuts, but, yeah, I'm good with that. But I would say if there's somebody else out there or here who would like to, sort of like to,
Dan?
look at that.
Crystal?
Crystal, Stan.
No, I think that's a good point, Joe, and
Okay.
not only getting your feet wet in a year as chair, but other members are fear on the board in general before they're prepared to step up to one of those positions.
Sure. Okay,
So
so,
you have a motion and a second on the floor, so you have to call the vote.
yeah, I was gonna say we should do a private vote, but I don't know.
No.
By acclamation, that's fine with me.
We'll know that you voted no and the rest of us voted yes.
You know, without objection, I order unanimous consent.
There we go. All right. Thanks, Joe.
All in favor, aye.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I,
There you go. Now it's official.
All right.
Thank you.
All
Joe.
right, wonderful. How about, vice chair? Stan, you've been in that position for a while, or you want to go again, or?
well, I really have never had to sit in when the chair has not been there. So my role as vice chair has been, in name only. And since I don't attend meetings personally, filling in, for a regular meeting would be, nigh impossible for me. And, with my current illness makes it even worse. So I had offered a while back to resign that position because I couldn't actively participate as such.
Okay.
And I offered that again. but I would be happy to do whatever I can do remotely, if needed.
I think you could still do it. I don't see an issue with, I don't see you being remote as being an issue for any of us. So,
I'd like to
Unless,
nominate,
unless the guidelines change,
right.
the
which
state
I don't think-
guidelines.
No.
No, and it can either be a curse or a blessing, Stan, but I hope not to miss too many meetings in the future. But I think I'm gonna probably miss one on purpose, just so you can get the.
I'll second Eileen's motion. She
Eileen
made
made
a
a
motion
motion.
you may not have heard, but
Okay,
the motion was to elect Stan as vice chair.
Vice Chair. And Eileen,
Or she made the
she
motion.
made the motion and you
I
second, okay, all right, let's.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You can vote, Stan.
I know, I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining, okay. All right,
So not enough to keep you out.
There you go.
all right, you're in,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
you're good. Last but not least,
I'll nominate Eileen.
I was supposed to be temporary.
No, not at all. There's no such thing as temporary.
well, temporary, it's a temporal
Does
question.
anyone else, well, what was nice to hear is if we take off July and August, because I hope to be camping. That's in the mix.
I don't see why not. I mean, I think it's a grand, convention to,
But there's
I
always
think,
somebody
well, I would
else
tell you
that
Highland
can-
Valley, we don't have a meeting until September now as well. They take the summer.
Cindy, you okay with that?
I mean, you can still reach people.
Yeah, you can reach.
I think I'll freak out if I don't have my monthly, my many times monthly conversations with Joe.
Oh, no.
We can,
Oh, you can still have.
We can
He's a
still have
bulwark,
them,
he's
you
a
know.
bulwark of the Easthampton Council.
It doesn't mean you can't contact Joe.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Or anybody else.
You got my name.
Right.
I think I would support not having meetings, and then when we get to the other agenda item about the board training that I went to, we can talk about other things. Yeah. Okay. But is the secretary totally clear on what all the roles, you're in the middle of nominating, but I don't know that we finished talking about the job of the secretary, so, but I don't want to interrupt your
Sure.
nominating.
No, I mean,
procedure.
well,
Don't tell her about more work until after.
Right.
you vote.
Read the bylaws.
I mean,
Is it more, Cindy, than what you?
Is there more to
the
that? one?
bylaws
Just read.
bylaws don't lie. You know, secretary notifies members of meetings.
That's been the board chair.
Okay, I've been doing that.
Yeah.
And records all of the proceedings of the meetings of the council.
Yeah.
I mean, that's having been in that position not so long ago, you know, that can be a little bit of a bear, but you know, it gets easier as you go along, or that's what I find anyway.
How about, just from not to let you off the hook just yet, but I know Louise was, still interested in doing it. I think it was her internet connection. I don't know. I'm just gonna toss that out there. I don't know where.
Louise, that was something that we were gonna discuss probably right after we finish up
Okay.
here, so,
I'll remove my,
I'd be
just hold your
interested.
comments.
I'll hold my comment.
But
Yeah.
I only go until December,
Say again,
unless I'm reappointed. I said I would volunteer, but my appointment currently is only through December.
So if you get.
well, that can be changed.
If you get,
But it's not
well,
known
when
yet.
you get reappointed for another 3-year term,
Yeah.
then you could take it over next June.
Do you want to take it over right now?
No, next June.
Let me offer this thought, you guys, if there's some willingness, why don't you guys like swap off,
Take turns.
do 1 month, 2 months?
Secretary?
Job sharing.
Secretary in training
All right.
with the anticipation of taking it over next June.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea for anybody to get a sense for, because
Right.
doing that sort of, I'll say, when I was secretary, going back and trying to make sense of what was said at the
Right.
meeting, I'd go back and do some digging or look in the newsletter or
Yeah.
talk to somebody. It gave me a broader view of, how things,
What's going on?
how things work and what are the different things in the fire. So,
I will say I did get very panicked when I saw the Google Meet minutes. I was like, what the heck is this stuff?
The
And
transcript.
then, yeah,
Yeah.
but then you get like on page 3 and then it starts making sense. But what was even better, which I should have done to begin with, was listen to
Yeah.
the meeting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then go with my hand scratch here. But,
And you don't have to, at least this is my understanding from, I've had to take many a minutes at many a meeting. I mean, you don't have to go word for word. They
Right.
just need the gist of what
Summary.
happened.
Yeah,
Just
you're not a
short
stenographer.
summary. Right.
Yeah.
And I learned the hard way too, because I was like writing down every, Dave said, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And then I was like 5 pages. They're like, we talked about the bridge. Like, and we corrected this, and this. Stop. You don't need the
Yeah.
whole, dissertation of what's what.
got
So,
it.
and there is the recording, in reality, these recordings are somewhere that if
Somewhere.
somebody really wanted to go back and really get into the nitty gritty, they could sit and watch this whole entire thing. Which I've done with many city council meetings. The good news on YouTube is you can watch it at 1.5 to 2 times the speed, so it's way faster than the hour-long meeting. It's 20 minutes.
Oh.
But they sound like chipmunks, but that's a whole other.
Sure.
But it goes by really quick.
Okay, Stan?
I believe the YouTube of the city council meetings is there because Easthampton Media records those meetings and puts it on their YouTube channel. They don't
Yeah.
record our meetings as far as I know, because they can't do it remotely. They have to use the equipment in the room. And the room that you use is not, fitted out for that kind of recording. So I'm not sure that could be an option.
Yeah, I will say that back when I was secretary, they were, and this was during the old Zoom days.
Yeah.
That stuff, Easthampton Media did put our Zoom meetings up
They
there
did.
and I was able to access them.
They were.
Now with this Google Meets, I don't know how that works.
So we are recording the meeting, so I would be willing to bet $1 if I were a betting man, that you could email the mayor's office and say, can I get I need to see the link for this video, and it would be somewhere.
And they could give me a link.
Give you a link.
Okay,
I think when you go on the agenda page, the
Yeah.
agenda and minutes page, there's a little symbol, the recorded symbol, and it's there.
Yeah.
All these meetings are on the
Yeah, I've
website.
seen them some. I've
They're
seen-
on the website.
okay,
I say we call the vote.
call a vote
Oh,
Secretary.
for,
I guess Tom nominated me.
No, Chuck
I
did.
did.
Chuck did.
Oh,
Chuck did.
sorry.
Tom seconded.
Tom seconded and,
She wants to know who the culprits are.
all right, all those in favor of Eileen as secretary?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I think it's by unanimous, consent. You're it, Eileen. Congratulations.
With a little partner here, I'm very excited.
Good deal. Okay, I know we're running out of time here, but let me just bring the other thing up about Louise. I think at the last meeting, Louise, if I understood what she was concerned about, apparently she's had issues with her computer and with her internet service provider, and as far as connecting with stuff. And apparently after the meeting, there were some subsequent discussions between Cindy and Louise, and that was basically
So Louise wants to convey to the board that she has a personal family medical issue and she's going to not she is going on hiatus from all council on aging involvement, both board and personal, starting now, end date still undetermined, sometime between July and beginning of September. So basically what she's saying is that she would be absent June, July, potentially August, September. Now, we're not gonna have any July or August meetings, so she's absent today. She's not confirming whether she'll be absent in September, and so we're not sure how many absences she will have.
So I mean, in the past, we've had provisions for people who given, you know, like upfront, they want to step away for a while.
Yeah, I guess I would just hope that she could clarify that a bit more. I've never heard the term, and I understand what going on hiatus means,
yeah.
but I don't think you'll find that in any municipal documents that you can go on hiatus from a board, open-ended. Someone might say, I'd like a leave of absence
Leave
from
of
the board,
absence, yeah.
and I will return for the October meeting. Well, that's a little more definite. You can wrap your arms around it. I don't think we can just have it open-ended to be indefinite.
This,
I think she's, yeah, I think she's was sort of maybe not totally explicit, but, you know, starting now. Okay, so we know
Right.
that was June 15th was the date of the message. And then end date still undetermined, but she says sometime between July and the beginning of September. So by September 1st.
She may not be aware, so July and August wouldn't even count.
Right.
Correct.
So September would be, yeah. If she came back in September, October should be fine.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that the chair or somebody, you know, could, I mean, I could certainly shoot her a note and saying, hey, you know, as we get to that September 1st date, you know, say, hey, you know,
Status.
yeah, just, you know, how are things going? And,
Exactly.
you know, do you see yourself being back by our September meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, is, you know, and giving her that time to sort of, you know, sift through everything or for whatever. Yes.
and
Yes.
she also resigned officially as secretary.
Okay.
See, I didn't even know that. I suspected that, but okay. All right. So anyway, that was the deal with, new business officer elections and board membership. So I think we're gonna be, you know, part of our deal will be off like July and August, so we'll come back in September and,
Go from there.
take it from there. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you can't contact anybody if something comes up.
No, and if there is an issue that's pressing and we need to meet, we need to call a meeting, then we can still call. a
We
meeting.
can
It's
certainly
not-
do that.
It's not, yeah, that's
Because Cindy knows how to get in touch with
Right.
us, so.
right.
Okay, so we can, good. And then, I don't know if we have enough time, follow-up from the MCOA board training held in Ludlow on May 31st.
What I'd like to do is send the board information. So for both B and C. So we can send you the recording, from the training on public speak and what the issues are around the new SJ Supreme Judicial Court ruling. Cause everybody should be aware of that.
It's
And then-
actually, it's a very entertaining discussion where a guy who was one of the one of the participants in the case, you know, basically said that they expected, apparently it was at a Southborough, was at some sort of, I think it was a select board meeting where one of the people got up and referred to one of the selectmen as Hitler. And apparently they sanctioned that person, and the Supreme Judicial Court came back and said, no, you cannot sanction them.
Wow.
So the gist of that whole, opinion was that, you know, a certain amount of abuse is permissible.
Right.
You know, you can ask
Well,
people to sort of keep a lid on it, but
Yeah. So
you
we
can't
could call
sanction
it-
them if they don't keep a lid on it.
Correct. We can call you a name if we wanted to, but not too long.
So I will send out information
Yeah, okay.
about these, but just the main thing to let you know, I know we're 2 minutes over, is
Sure.
this board can legally engage in, time together that is for the purpose of training or exploration or both, as long as it's not council business.
Yeah.
So the training that we went to, for example, if a quorum had gone and we're sitting together at a table, that's fine, as long as you're not discussing council business or the business of older adults in Easthampton. So when I send you this information, I will also send you the message that if we were to engage in any of the activities around board development that this training is calling us to do, that could happen this summer, it could happen another time. But without having board meetings to plan it, I don't think it would work that well. So it'll just be me sending the information, and I think we would just have to take it up again in September, because you would have to conduct business of the board in order to set up such activities.
Training,
Yeah, I think, so.
Yeah. I've often heard that Cindy described as make sure you're not deliberating outside of a meeting. So if we started deliberating on some action we were going to take without the opportunity of the public to hear that, that's where we can get in trouble.
Yep.
Joe, on the public speak, I had a chance to speak with a couple of city councilors, just because they've always had a policy of you can't be abusive. Well, now you can be abusive if you want to be. But
I'll just have you know, my ground rules make no mention of abusiveness.
But the ground rules is the key. They said to me, just make sure whatever it is you do with public speak, you have it in writing. So that if anybody were to come back and say, you never told me I only have 2 minutes. And it's our guidelines. Yes, this is the way we operate it. And we have something to back us up in writing that we've all supported. So it's a good thing that we ultimately put that in writing as to what the guidelines are for public speak.
No, because I mean, the people who are, to know what public speak is, to realize that there are different ways to get to the board with different questions. So public speak is one way to do it, but the only way to
Correct. So all our names and contact information, I believe, are in the newsletter. So people could contact us.
All right, does anybody have any parting comments or further things?
You talked about not for the summer and reaching out, whatever. I believe we still have at least one opening on the board. We're full.
Fine.
Good.
Yeah, we're good.
Don't need to reach out to anybody to join the board.
Although it doesn't hurt to
Have somebody in the
at
wings.
least have some percolating interest.
We got somebody in the wings right here.
Now you can toss it.
If you have a comment. Okay, in the interest of getting you guys out of here on time,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. May we have one?
Pat did.
Pat,
Motion.
Second.
Tom seconds. All those in favor?
Right.
I
All those opposed by unanimous consent, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just saying Joe's waiting to pound that thing one more time.
We are now adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.